Well, we can officially call it a Moody 49ers update. I am operating in 36 degrees right now. So we got the jacket on. It's all good. We don't have the sunset like we did last time we were at this spot up in the Sierra, but you could see some of the trees behind me. That's fog, high clouds, whatever you want to call it. We're over a mile high, and it's officially a Moody 49ers update. Not to be confused with Jake Moody. He's still on the 49ers roster if you want the Jake Moody update. But today we're going to be talking about Deebo Samuel and the potential dead money if the 49ers trade or cut him, because I'm going to illustrate this really clearly. I think there's so much misunderstanding of the situation out there. And then we could talk about how that might tie into potential trades for the Garretts. And the Garretts are Myles Garrett and Garrett Wilson, the receiver from the New York Jets. If the 49ers do let go of Deebo Samuel, it obviously ups the probability that another veteran receiver comes in, although it wouldn't be mandatory that a veteran receiver came in for the 49ers because they do have Ricky Pearsall. And, up on the San Francisco Standard right now, you go check it out. It's another great piece of art. There's a picture from skiing. You guys are going to see a video from skiing in a little bit. That should be fun. But this right here, how Deebo Samuel's likely departure fits the 49ers' larger plan at wide receiver. Clay Roddery has these great illustrations. Well, this one has Deebo Samuel over in the right, obviously smaller there than Brandon Ayuk and George Kittle, who are going to be centerpieces for sure for the 49ers moving forward, especially George Kittle, with whom the 49ers are negotiating a contract extension as we speak. But Deebo Samuel likely gone. There's going to be a dead money bill attached to that. The 49ers will have a couple of options of how they proceed with the dead money bill, but all of them lead back to the same place. They do have the salary cap money to pay both George Kittle again and Brock Purdy for the first time on a second contract. George Kittle's contract will be his third when he inks it with the 49ers. I spoke about Garrett Wilson. We could talk about the replacement project there. This whole article up on the San Francisco Standard, by the way, the State of the 49ers Receiver Edition, is your best opportunity to really look through what the 49ers are going to do at that receiver spot. We're going to go through some of there's Deebo dropping that pass against the Rams. That was really the lasting memory at the end of the Deebo Samuel tenure, if that is indeed it. I know that he had a good game against the Miami Dolphins, which followed that, but this was the play that, for all intents and purposes, eliminated the 49ers. But I did create a big efficiency chart for the 49ers receiver position. We'll get to that in a little bit. Some other numbers, really good ones, and then you could look at what's up next for the 49ers. Some of this photography is really good. I love what Clay Roddery made as the cover photo for this, but how about this? I'm sure Michael Zagaris took this picture in the locker room. He's the best that there is. Ricky Pearsall, we have to talk about him. We have to talk about Garendo. And, of course, we can continue talking about George Kittle. Link to this article is in the description, so go ahead and check it out. The entire State of the 49ers series has had really, really beautiful illustrations. Anyway, while daylight is here, I always time these up to coincide with sunset. It's 5:13 p.m. Pacific time. Just got done skiing over at China Peak here in the 559. Saw some of you over in Clovis the other day, but now we are a little bit above Clovis, drove up into the mountains. Last time we did this, we had the sunset behind us. No sunset this time, just some steamy air coming out of my mouth here with the fog taking over. I guess the fog has blanketed the entire Central Valley. That probably 209, 559, all those area codes full of 49ers fans with a lot of fog. So this is officially the Moody 49ers update, probably the moodiest one that we're going to do, while talking a little bit about Jake Moody. If you have questions about Jake Moody, potential kickers, go ahead and drop them into the chat. But I think first things first, we need to explain the Deebo Samuel dead money situation. So I have the Deebo Samuel contract here ready for everybody. We'll open it up. You could take a look at what this looks like. This is from Over the Cap. Now, people are freaking out about dead money. There is a lot of dead money that would come with Deebo Samuel being traded or being cut. But in the case of dead money, you have to remember what dead money actually means. Dead money is all money that has been paid to a player that has not yet hit the salary cap. And when that player's time with the team is finished, it has to hit the cap. So if you pay Deebo Samuel $5 million signing bonus. As we know, by NFL rule, only $1 million at a time is going to hit in each season. Up to 5 years, it stretches out like an accordion. So the 49ers, when they restructured Deebo Samuel's contract a couple times, they last did it in 2024. What they did is they converted base salary, which you see in this column. These are all veteran minimum base salaries. They're as low as possible because they've converted base salary to signing bonus or option bonus, and that has stretched out over the course of 5 years. So in the case of 2025, there's an option bonus that is due that is worth $15.4 million. 15.4 million divided by 5 is this number right here, 3.086. So that $15.4 million option bonus is set to kick in for Deebo Samuel on March 22nd if he's still with the 49ers, if that contract is still San Francisco's, and it will stretch all the way out through void years into 2029. But he's only under contract through 2025. This is the final season under contract. Now, all this other money, this complicated stuff, these are all signing bonuses, option bonuses, restructures that the 49ers have executed on Deebo Samuel's contract, where they have essentially decided that they wanted to stiff arm. They wanted to stiff arm. Maybe I should put the stiff arm right here. They wanted to stiff arm the salary cap hit into the future, right? So it's the accordion complex and then the stiff arm. You're trying to get the salary cap hit further into the future so you don't have to deal with it right now, okay? So in the case of Deebo Samuel's contract, there are a lot of different complicated restructures over the years. There are, I mean, you look at the numbers here, they're all different season to season. That means that the money's been messed with a lot, but the 49ers have managed to push $8.9 million of cap into 2026, 4.1 through the signing bonus into 2027, 4.1 again here. This column has a fresh 4.9, 4.9. Essentially everything that you see beyond this season, right? Beyond 2025, you add together to form what would be the dead money hit, because everything that they've stiff-armed into the future would have to accelerate to hit the cap now if Deebo Samuel were to be traded or cut. So all of this, all these numbers that I'm circling right now with my cursor would add up to $31.5 million. It would accelerate. The dam holding those numbers into the future would essentially rupture, and all that money would flood to hit the 49ers salary cap now. $31.5 million. So you guys hear me talking about the 49ers always trying to carry as much salary cap space as possible into each subsequent season. They restructure a lot of contracts. They push that money forward. I talk a lot about a zero interest loan. I say salary cap space now is worth more than salary cap space later because it's more precious now because the salary cap is growing. Well, one of the reasons the 49ers do that is to maintain as much flexibility as possible for situations like this. Say that you can trade Deebo Samuel and get a 5th round pick back. I'm not even going to be aggressive. I'll say 5th round pick. Some people are saying, well, what about a conditional 3rd? I don't know. I don't know what the market is going to be. 49ers are probably just gauging that right now. But say it's for a 5. Hell, say it's for a 7. That is better than nothing. You're getting something back. But if you do not have the salary cap situation to absorb a $31.5 million dead money hit now, you're out of luck. You can't make that trade. So the reason the 49ers like to have this buffer with the salary cap is because they have option power. Things are flexible. Let me show you the 49ers salary cap situation right now. This right here is a sheet that I make public. It's always online, so you can check it out. This is actually the 2024 salary cap situation. So bear with me for a moment. Let's get the 2025 salary cap situation up. Here it is. Open it up and get it up on the screen. There you go. So in 2025, the 49ers, as it currently stands, have $46.3 million of space. This is according to my calculations. I'm estimating that the cap is going to be $280 million plus the $50 million the 49ers carried over. You have to remember, money carries over from year to year. So say that Deebo Samuel, his cap hit is currently $15.8 million for San Francisco because that includes the option bonus. Say that Deebo Samuel is no longer with the team next year. They don't pay the option bonus because they trade him, but they have to pay $31.5 million in dead money. So we'll put his cap hit as 31.5 million. All of a sudden, they go down to about 30 million in cap space. Even if they pay Brock Purdy on top of that, we'll say his cap hit goes up about 10 million. That's what I've calculated. So we'll put it at 15 million. They're down to 20 million in cap space. So as you can see, they still have a buffer. Now, this roster right here, this sheet, right, that is combined with a roster, I only have 40 players on it. So they still need to sign at least 13 to have a viable team on a 53-man roster. So that's not that easy to do with only $20.8 million in salary cap space, especially if you want to make the football team better. That's where the maneuvers for somebody like George Kittle come in. So you can see here, the impact of Brock Purdy's contract is going to be more expenses, about $10 million more in 2025. The impact of a George Kittle extension, though, can actually save the 49ers money. We can bring the cap hit down to, let's say, $12 million, and I'll explain why. Just moved it to 12. Boom. All of a sudden, the 49ers right here, they're up to $30.8 million in space. So it's this give and take. You let some water out of the dam, you fill the reservoir up with some replacement water, but you got to maintain the cap level. You got to maintain the water level at a healthy spot. But I can tell you that in summary, to keep this simple, George Kittle is going to save the 49ers short-term cap space. Deebo Samuel is going to cost the 49ers short-term cap space, assuming they do cut or trade Deebo Samuel this year. I have all of this explained in the article up on the Standard if you want this in written form. But expenditures come out of the faucet, savings leave the drain. Every single season is a sink, and you have to keep the water level of the salary cap sink at a healthy level. Restructures help you move some of the water to future years, through the drain, into the faucet, into future years. The 49ers have managed this beautifully over the course of time. And in the case of Deebo Samuel, even though the dead money would all accelerate to rush through the dam and hit the sink now, the fact that they have, 46 million, as I projected on my page, they have enough money to absorb the Deebo Samuel dead money now. Now, if he is not traded, then the 49ers will likely cut him. Because as I explained in this piece, Deebo Samuel no longer fits what the 49ers are doing offensively to a T. Things have changed ever since the offense has moved to Brock Purdy. They're throwing further downfield. Deebo, the bulldozer, is not as good as Ricky Pearsall, the separator for the 49ers, as far as scheme fit for San Francisco. So if they do decide to jettison Deebo Samuel anyway, because this would save them long-term money, $15.4 million option bonus due March 22nd, they can actually designate Deebo Samuel for a post-June 1st cut. And what the post-June 1st cut does, this is an interesting tool. It helps open up near-term salary cap space, which is more valuable. But you look here, all this money that would accelerate and hit the cap in 2025, the post-June 1st cut actually builds a dam so that the acceleration doesn't fully hit in 2025. So basically you shoulder 10 million dead money in 2025, and then the remaining, I don't know what it is, like 21 million, I think. Let me do the math. If it was, what was it for Deebo Samuel? 31. No, the remaining 21 million. That is, sometimes I'm not as good with math as I may seem to be when I'm looking at the salary cap, but it's 31.5 million total dead money. A post-June 1st designation actually saves you $21 million of dead money now, and you pay it later in 2026. The key is that the 49ers have the option power to either take the dead money now, which they would have to do through a trade before June 1st, or take it later, because that's what they probably almost certainly would do. I would say if they cut Deebo Samuel, they would want to shoulder the load of dead money later when salary cap space is more abundant. So that explains the finances here. So many people see dead money and they see a $31.5 million dead money bill, and they're like, oh, the 49ers can't cut him. They're tied to Deebo Samuel for better or for worse. This is a dumb financial move. And it's actually not, because salary cap space is connected from season to season. So as long as you save, you're saving. The Bills jettisoned Stephon Diggs with a $31 million dead money hit, and I think they benefited from it. So you're escaping whatever else you owe the player moving forward. The 49ers still owe Deebo Samuel that $15.4 million due on March 22nd. So if a trade does happen, and there are some skeptics, I know Mike, our producer, is skeptical of the 49ers' ability to trade Deebo Samuel. But if there is a trade happening, it will happen before March 22nd. If that is the timeline of this, then it would actually spare the 49ers that money, while they also would receive some draft capital in return. We'll see what the market is for Deebo Samuel. It does come down to this. This is what he would cost an acquiring team. 2025, base salary $1.17 million, and then a $15.4 million option bonus kicks in here. You can't see it in the over the cap sheet. You'd actually have to hover your mouse over this, but this is just a screenshot. So 15.4 plus the 1.17, about somewhere between 16 and 17 million for Deebo Samuel for one season, which might be amenable to a team. But again, the game is shifting. I wrote so much about this in the State of the 49ers wide receiver piece, and we should actually put some statistics up on the screen. You see here on the right, is this something that I need to make bigger? Yeah, I think I do. Especially if I'm going to be on the screen here, then we have to take care of you guys with the stat there. I think that's a lot better. Blue is good. Red is bad. That is the efficiency in yards per route run for the 49ers in this past season. So yards per route run is going to be more sophisticated than just yards or touchdowns. It's going to look at the total amount of routes a receiver runs. And then if he's targeted a lot, if he's an efficient part of the offense, if he delivers throughout that time, he's going to be higher in yards per route run. George Kittle, constantly dominant in yards per route run. You see him there at 2.62. He had a good season. Juwan Jennings into the blue, 2.26. But Deebo Samuel regressed big time this year. Below average at 1.6. Now, Ricky Pearsall, I know that he was below average on the aggregate, but over the final two games of the season, Ricky Pearsall here at 1.31, he was actually at about 2.6. Ricky Pearsall was one of the NFL leaders over the final two games. You can't tell me that Ricky Pearsall's surge at the end of the season didn't give the 49ers confidence and potential life after Deebo Samuel. You know who else surged at the end of the season? Isaac Guerendo. Isaac Guerendo used to be a receiver in college. So his ability to catch the ball coming out of the backfield and also run the football probably gives you, in Kyle Shanahan's eyes, a lot of the same Swiss Army knife capabilities that Deebo Samuel gave the 49ers, especially at his best. So Guerendo, you have to envision everything with Christian McCaffrey on the team for the 49ers. And on the team and healthy, because he wasn't healthy over the majority of last year, so Guerendo just had to play a standard running back role. I can see Isaac Guerendo delivering for San Francisco in an expanded role, in a more creative role, something more reminiscent of a Deebo Samuel role, the wide back, if and when Christian McCaffrey is healthy. So that makes Deebo Samuel even more redundant for this 49ers offense. And that's before we even get into some of the struggles. We saw one of them here toward the end of last season. To give you guys some context, this right here for the 49ers, they had 5 receivers shaded in blue last year. That was one of the most efficient offenses we've ever seen. They've got to get back to that. I've talked so much about the need for San Francisco to play better in the short game. I mean, yesterday when we watched the Super Bowl, I feel like I jinxed Kansas City, and a lot of you probably were going to be happy that I jinxed Kansas City. By the way, this Moody 49ers update has turned really moody. I can't even see the trees behind me. That's crazy. I mean, on sunny days, and we did this after the wild card round, we saw Mount Whitney back in that direction, 66 miles away. It's the highest peak in the 48 states. It's not back there anymore. Anyway, back to the Super Bowl. I talked so much about the 49ers not throwing screen passes, not throwing short this year. Purdy was very low in the short throw rankings, and Mahomes was at the very top of the league. I don't remember more than 1 or 2 screen passes while Philadelphia was completely obliterating Kansas City's offensive line yesterday. It was not a good day for Andy Reid. It was not a good day for Patrick Mahomes. It was not a good day for Travis Kelce, who looked washed. I mean, it was a bad time to have a bad day for the Kansas City Chiefs, because that is a legacy burner right there. Sure, they're going to go down as a dynasty, but there's no way they go down as the greatest dynasty of all time from this point forward. because Montana's 49ers and Brady's Patriots and Brady's Bucks in that 2020 season never got blown out in a Super Bowl. Fair or not, players are judged by the Super Bowl more harshly than any other game. And the fact that the Chiefs have now been blown out twice, not once, but twice in the Super Bowl, absolutely fundamentally embarrassed. That's not good for the Chiefs. So maybe I did jinx them. Anyway, the Eagles put on a blueprint. Oh my goodness, was this a blueprint from Philadelphia? I'm going to play a little bit of a video that I made a little bit earlier in a couple minutes. We're going to talk about Robert Saleh, Vic Fangio, and the Fangio model that Philadelphia was able to deliver yesterday. But in terms of personnel, what Philadelphia has done to restock that offensive line certainly is special. Now let's talk a little bit about George Kittle and Brock Purdy and these contracts. The Purdy contract, I don't think anything's really moving on that front. Yeah, there might have been like a little talk back and forth, a couple reports back and forth, but I've said throughout that the 49ers are going to need to know the size of the salary cap to be very, very certain about where they're heading and how they're going to structure this deal. When you go back to my Brock Purdy contract projection, that was written from here. I was up here in Shaver Lake. We can take a quick look at it. I mean, this is delicate stuff. When we look at the actual chart, where is it? There it is. As you can see, I mean, the staggered structure the 49ers are using here, they're trying to push cap hits into the future. As I talked about Deebo Samuel's dead money, it's all the same type of principles. But all of this is contingent on where the cap is going to be. So if you go to my actual cap sheet, you could see up here, I say cap size $330 million. That is estimated 2025 cap size of $280 million plus $50 million carryover. We know the Niners are going to be carrying over $50 million of unused space. We know that they are better at carrying over money and doing the math in that regard than any other team in football. But we don't know where this number is going to be. The cap has risen about 10% year over year. I think at about 11 or 12% rise, which I based on last year's rise, it would be at about $280 million for this next season. But I cannot tell you for sure, and the 49ers can't tell you for sure where the cap is going to be. It is tied to NFL revenue. And the NFL season just finished yesterday in the Super Bowl. So we have to wait and see where this is going to go as far as what was the Taylor Swift effect? She wasn't very happy after the game yesterday, but what's the Taylor Swift effect on the money for the NFL, on the revenue? How's the YouTube TV deal going for the NFL? All these different distributor deals, that this was big money. The NFL was on more streaming channels. You probably had to subscribe to 11 different things to be able to watch every single NFL game this past season. So all of this is going to go into the pot of NFL revenue. And then the salary cap is going to be based on the revenue. And that's how the 49ers can figure out exactly what the landmarks in the Brock Purdy contract are going to be. That's how they can figure out exactly how they want to restructure George Kittle. Although, since that will be a short-term money saver for George Kittle, and it's a no-brainer, and I talked about it a lot in my piece up on the San Francisco Standard, since it's a short-term money saver, I don't think that they need as much preset information as they do in the case of this Brock Purdy contract. Everybody, go ahead and check this out. It's up on the San Francisco Standard. This is the article. This is Brandon Ayuk and the 49ers receiving room. Boy, did they need Brandon Ayuk back. You know, the one stat, and I promised there would be one more staggering stat. I can get this one up on the screen. This is the one that I think really, really showcased how much trouble the 49ers were having at receiver last season. And this is why I wouldn't rule out Devontae Adams. I wouldn't rule out Garrett Wilson, T. Higgins. I don't think it's likely, but I also think that the 49ers were desperate last season at that receiver position. Look at this. Average separation at the time of catch or incompletion in 2024. The top 5 teams, and then a big gap, and we go all the way to the very worst team in the NFL. It is the 49ers. The Ravens, the Chiefs, the Broncos, the Seahawks, the Lions, 4 of those first 5 teams were playoff teams. The 4th of those teams has Geno Smith as its quarterback, so Geno's not good enough to take advantage of a lot of separation from his receivers. But Brock Purdy had to deal with a full yard plus less of separation than the top team in the NFL, the Baltimore Ravens. Lamar Jackson had a lot easier job than Brock Purdy did this year. So this is why the 49ers that absolutely must have enough layered depth in the receiving room to avoid the fiasco that was the 2024 season. I mean, this guy right here, Brandon Ayuk, got hurt. Deebo Samuel was good to start. I write this. Deebo Samuel, it was always clear after the 2024 offseason when Brandon Ayuk signed for $30 million, when Juwan Jennings re-signed with the 49ers, when Christian McCaffrey re-signed with the 49ers, when they drafted Ricky Pearsall in the first round, it was always clear that it was going to be an uphill battle for Deebo Samuel to earn an extension with the team. He's going to have to really blow their socks off in 2024. And it looked like he might be set to do just that after a great training camp, after a great week 1, good week 2, 100+ yards, but he got hurt. That oblique injury happened in week 2. Deebo was never the same. It was an uphill battle from that point on, including the pneumonia, the hospitalization in week 7. So he had a ton that he needed to prove to get to where the 49ers needed him to be, and he wasn't quite able to do that. And I think you could trace it all back to that week 2 injury. Anyway, the 49ers need more separation. That's why we talk about Garrett Wilson still in a contract with the Jets for a year, but they might be rebuilding. We'll see what they do with their players. Then we look at somebody like T. Higgins. He's going to be a free agent. Devontae Adams, is that going to be a package deal with Aaron Rodgers? Who knows? Seems to be a mess. All of this stuff, the 49ers are going to be involved in the rumor mill here because of a simple reason, because of this stat. I get it that they hope that the returns of Brandon Ayuk and Christian McCaffrey fix most of this, and perhaps those returns will fix most of this. But this was still a bottom barrel stat that really, really compromised the 49ers. And heading into a contract for Brock Purdy, it's something that you absolutely have to take care of. All right, so I promised that we'd talk about the Eagles blueprint. Well, we got a new executive producer. You may know her as Lombardi herself. And it turns out that she's very talented. She allowed me to be able to talk about the 49ers while I was skiing today. So let's take a look at this. We're going to talk about the Philadelphia Eagles blueprint, Robert Saleh and Vic Fangio. I want to talk the 49ers defense and Robert Saleh, see if they can replicate what the Eagles did in the Super Bowl. So we're going to try something new. We're going to ski and we're going to talk about the fact that the Eagles did not blitz a single time in the Super Bowl when they absolutely destroyed Patrick Mahomes. So this was 0 blitzes and almost exclusive zone coverage from Vic Fangio. Guess who doesn't like to blitz a lot and runs almost exclusively zone coverage? That is the 49ers' new defensive coordinator, Robert Saleh. I really enjoy this parallel because Vic Fangio used to be the 49ers defensive coordinator. There was some interest in bringing him back. That might have been a mistake that they brought in Steve Wilks instead in 2023. Lombardi herself is doing a great job producing this, by the way. She's a better skier than I am. And she knows how to run the camera better than I do. But anyway, they didn't bring in Fangio. He's obviously with the Eagles now. They're Super Bowl champions, but the 49ers finally were able to get it right. 2 straight DC misses later, they have Robert Saleh. He's not going to blitz a whole lot. He's going to run a lot of zone. But what the Eagles showed is that you can win running a lot of zone and not blitzing a whole lot. Now, the key is going to be personnel for the 49ers. They're going to have to stock up on the defensive line. Howie Roseman did it with the Eagles. Howie Roseman is a master at this. But John Lynch has already built a really good defensive line for the 49ers. 2019, they had Mahomes on the absolute ropes in a similar way that the Eagles had him yesterday until the 3rd and 15 when Nick Bosa was held. So I think if you're the 49ers, you look at the track record of building a defensive line, you look at what the Eagles have done, and you say, we've got to do it again. If you're San Francisco, you have to find a way to make the defensive line dominant. That way you can win with 4. A 4-man rush is undefeated. The New York Giants did it against the NASCAR package. The 49ers did it in 2019 until there was no holding called against Nick Bosa. And then, well, the Eagles did it last night. So the 4-man rush is undefeated. You could play that alongside with a nice zone coverage. That's what Robert Saleh is going to bring. That's what Vic Fangio brought the Eagles to their world title. All right. Oh, we got Lombardi herself. That was I couldn't run that camera. I'm telling you, she's a better skier than me. I don't know how that happened since she's in Tennessee most of the year and not up here. I hadn't skied in like 3 years. Was able to film that, and we were able to talk about Fangio and Robert Saleh. But seriously, the most staggering stat as the Moody 49ers update continues. Look, I was able to adjust the lighting a little bit while that video was playing. Look at the trees in the background. I mean, the cloud cover here. This is awesome. I think sunset is officially hit, so we got a little bit more light before it's totally done, but the Moody 49ers update will continue. Jake Moody still on the team. You know, speaking of Jake kicking in a Moody update, Jake Elliott of the Philadelphia Eagles is now the most accurate kicker in Super Bowl history. Hasn't missed a kick and over 2 Super Bowls. Obviously, he was in it 2 years ago for the Eagles and they lost 34-31. Yesterday, he drilled 4. Now, guess whose record Jake Elliott broke? Ray Wersching, the former kicker of the 49ers, who I guess didn't miss in a Super Bowl. I learned that today, but 49ers don't have Jake Elliott. They have Jake Moody, and we have a Moody 49ers update. But we do have the intel that the Eagles were able to provide the entire league. And, you know, I talked about it last week, 17 years ago to date last week. The New York Giants beat the 18-0 New England Patriots. What did they do? They beat them with their front 4. If you bring an extra rusher, especially against a good quarterback and a good play caller, you're setting yourself up to be burned. The ultimate key in the sport of football, especially at this level, at the highest level, is a 4-man rush. 4-man rush means that 7 are back in coverage, and yesterday it was zone plus the 4-man rush. Really disciplined zone. We saw Cooper DeJean with the pick 6 for Philadelphia. That was a really cool moment on his birthday. It was Saquon Barkley's birthday too, the birthday boys for the Philadelphia Eagles. But we saw the excellent zone coverage with 7 plastering on the back end, combined with an overpowering 4-man pass rush. You have to have the personnel to be able to do it. And I mean, the Eagles, I went through this morning. Milton Williams, defensive tackle, 2 sacks yesterday. They drafted him in 2021 in the 3rd round. Jordan Davis, that's a 1st-round defensive tackle picked in 2022. Jalen Carter, that's a 1st-round defensive tackle picked in 2023. So back-to-back seasons, Philadelphia picked a defensive tackle in the 5th round. 3 straight seasons, they used a top 3-round pick on a defensive tackle, and now it is truly paying off for the Eagles. Nolan Smith, edge rusher, 2023, 1st round out of Georgia, just like Jalen Carter. Jalix Hunt, edge rusher, 2024, 3rd round. So that was a rookie that had half a sack for the Eagles yesterday. Josh Sweat, this Howie Roseman's been around for a while, picked Josh Sweat way back in 2018 in the 4th round. Sweat is now going to be a free agent. And Brandon Graham, still on the football team. And this is a guy that's been there since, 2013. So it's really cool that the old guard for Philadelphia still there as this entirely new guard is taken over. I know guys like Javon Hargrave, Hassan Reddick are all gone, but the way they rebuilt that line, super, super impressive. And the way that Vic Fangio coordinated things, very, very impressive. But as I said in the video, Robert Saleh and Vic Fangio, I mean, it might be a different front. One of them might be running a 4-3. One of them might be running a 3-4, although I saw an awful lot of alignments yesterday with the Eagles having a 4th guy with his hand in the dirt. But regardless of the front, regardless of the alignment, it's 4 men coming after the quarterback, and it's zone coverage on the back end. We know Saleh's the cover 3 zone for the 49ers. We know that they mixed it up with cover 4 quarters with Joe Woods a lot in 2019. But let's be real. When we talk about the Eagles' blueprint, it's not like the 49ers have been massively far off of it. In 2019, when Saleh was the defensive coordinator, the 49ers absolutely skunked Patrick Mahomes. That was 3+ quarters of nothing. They were harassing him. He was It looked a lot like the ineptitude that we saw yesterday from Mahomes against the Eagles, against that 2019 49ers line. But San Francisco was unable to score 30-plus points offensively, so it didn't turn into a blowout. If you give an opposing offense enough shots, they'll eventually start to move the ball. We saw the Eagles finally give up some points later in that game yesterday. Even last year, with Steve Wilks as the defensive coordinator, Kansas City did hardly nothing. Like the first 10 possessions, they're empty. They didn't get back into that game until the muffed punt, the punt off of Darrell Luter Jr.'s leg. So even that 49ers defense that had been relatively bad the week prior against the Detroit Lions did shut Patrick Mahomes and Kansas City down for a long time. Complementary football is essential. Yes, you can't screw things up on special teams, but you also have to score. You have to cash in on the mistakes that the other team gives you. So Patrick Mahomes threw 2 picks yesterday. The biased media and biased viewers, biased YouTubers, they would never let Brock Purdy hear the end of it if he threw 2 interceptions as bad as Mahomes yesterday. And he threw more passes that could have been intercepted. He got away with a few yesterday as well. But the 2 interceptions that Mahomes threw are nothing new for him in Super Bowls. In 2019, he threw one to Fred Warner and he threw one to Tarvarius Moore. I think he threw 2 in 2019, right? He definitely threw 1. And then in 2023, he threw one to Jair Brown. The difference between yesterday, where the Eagles blew out the Chiefs, and 2019 and 2023 Super Bowls 54 and 58 is that the 49ers offense did not cash in on those interceptions. Jalen Hurts and the Eagles cashed in on the Mahomes picks, and that completely changed the game. So let's not pretend that the 49ers have been super far off in their blueprint to stop the Kansas City Chiefs. San Francisco's defense has done really, really nice stuff over the years against Kansas City. We cannot pretend that the 49ers have been miles away from where they've needed to be. This past season, it was really bad for the 49ers. I get that. They regressed all the way down to number 26, but they've got Robert Saleh back, and it was a Robert Saleh defense that first in 2019 really put Patrick Mahomes on the ropes. And we can argue until we're blue in the face about the 3rd and 15 lack of a holding call, right, on Nick Bosa trying to rush, and that was the play that turned the game around to Tyreek Hill. So you can argue that even though the 49ers offense, didn't put up a crazy amount of points in that game, they probably still should have won had that game been officiated properly. Unfortunately for the 49ers, it's woulda, coulda, shoulda, but we're focused on how San Francisco can build moving forward. And I think you load up that defense with some good players, hit well in the draft this year. Mason Graham is somebody that we talk a lot about. There are other defensive tackles out there that we talk a lot about. I think that it's important that San Francisco continues to fortify the defensive line to get back to where they were just a couple years ago, and then they could be right back in business in a way that the Philadelphia Eagles were in business against the Kansas City Chiefs yesterday. Dare I say that there's a little bit of an overrated nature to Patrick Mahomes. Whenever, people act like this is some kind of god that could defeat anything, including an overpowering pass rush, and he can't. He's human just like all other quarterbacks that have played before him. So you have to follow the fundamentals, build that defensive line, make sure the linebacking core is strong. The Eagles hired. I guess you hire coaches, but they signed Zach Bond this season, who was a phenomenal linebacker, and they also drafted really well in the secondary with Cooper DeJean. That is how the 49ers must move forward as a team as well. They've got a lot of spots that they need to fill on that defensive side of the ball, which we will get to over the course of all these shows. So anyway, the Moody 49ers update with the light setting behind us. I think 38 minutes in, this is a good spot to wrap this one up. I'm hungry, so I think we're going to go cook some dinner. It was a fun day skiing today. Fun day talking about Jake Elliott and Jake Moody. Explained all the Deebo Samuel dead money. You could see my breath now. You could see how cold it is out here. It's down to about 35 degrees. So we've done an update on the slopes. We've done an update driving, and now we've done an update sitting here nearly freezing outside at Shaver Lake. And this one happened to be in the fog. The moon is popping up. I'll give you guys a view of the moon, the Moody view of what's going on out here as we finish up this update. I just have to get up to make sure that happens. So give me 1 second here. We're operating with a very limited room. And now we can turn off the light. We can take the camera and wow. Yeah, the moon is nice. It's right up there. We're the only ones on the mountain tonight, too. It's like nobody else within earshot up here in Shaver Lake. It certainly is beautiful, even though we didn't get that pure sunset tonight. Anyway, I know I'm a little bit more distant on the audio. Everybody, thanks for watching. We'll talk to you soon.